the furnace to the point that it is melted, and I actually put our cup of salt in there as well, so that should also be liquid. Let's separate. They're pretty much separate. Pour the salt in first and the aluminum on top of it. This one doesn't want to come out so well. Maybe
we're sending you the gift receipt as well, so you can take it back to the store and get the cash back instead.
Really turned sort of a grayish white, and aluminum is started sort of moving up at an angle, not on top of it. The salt is starting to cool down as well. You can see crystallized, which doesn't look anything like the surface of the aluminum. Kind of tear it the rest of the way out, and then I'm gonna. It's still extremely hot, so we got to give it some time to cool. Sort of a grayish white metal, whereas with the copper is now solidified, but of course now just to see if an aluminum is. And somewhere we melted. To see what happens if we try combining. So covered in carbon and smoke and stuff, but I'm gonna try same thing in another ingot, and I won't mix this one. It's the concrete pad. To start off, let's throw some aluminum in down the copper. Our flip this pan over and shake them out. Or if it really starts to change. Ooh, it looks like the salt is kind of just, you can see it's flaking like mad. What happens as they combine? Oh, some of our salt broke. Pouring some aluminum into this. Once it's all the way cooled down, I might see that you should always use a new muffin tin to pour. Pretty sure the aluminum just went right down through the salt. That underneath this salt might still be liquid aluminum too. Nice concrete. Yesterday we tried melting down the copper ingots to try and get some molten copper. The salt melts at closer to 50. It's pretty neat. Oh, and it cools down. Take them both out of the furnace and see what happens if we mix them together. So much heavier to lift up with a pair of tongs. Ooh, and our aluminum still is. Well, we've tried with aluminum. Let's try quickly. The pipes were sitting over the edge and some of it had spilled, and so we've just got a little. And the copper mixed with salt is kind of strange, and I don't know if there's a definite correlation, but some level. There's liquid right here. So it's got solidified salt. All right, adding some salt. 3, 2, 1. That's any of the metal being mixed into the puddle. Characteristics of it. We got some really cool colors from the salt and aluminum tin full of copper formed at the bottom there. Ingot, mold. That's nice and liquid. Mixing going on. Some of these things. Be able to get it out just fine. And that, near that result before. So I'm betting somehow there's copper mixed in. Molten copper looks awesome. Here's another piece of copper. I think the salt. We might need a new muffin tray. If I can pull these two pieces apart. All right, let's try this. So I'll try this with copper, which is firm. It is solidified, but that like copper right now because it's just. Well, the salt has cooled down. Salt and aluminum floating on the surface. Now let's see what happens. We let it cool down on the.
Hey guys, Grant here. Quick reminder, we're giving away a Nintendo Switch and
muffin tin off furnace for 45 minutes. They wouldn't melt. It's also probably tear it open if I need to get the copper out. Oh, well, I screwed one crucible and some salt into the other. We'll melt both of them at the same time and. But despite sitting into the tin, I bet it's going to end up looking a lot like the one where we didn't mix it. The color, the same thing, and mix it up. The aluminum is partially cooled down. They're both pretty liquid. Draped away some salt and you can see the exposed copper underneath it. I think the moral of this story is our copper. Nice molten copper. Salt first, then aluminum. That piece of salt, I bet, is still quite toasty. Come out in pieces. Oh, there it is. Well, well, they aren't pure copper. I'm not entirely sure what they were cast from. They could be an alloy with. And was still a little bit soft. Yes, yes it is. It's kind of like a paste. Well, some aluminum from previously molten copper into, because man alive, this is sticky. In the past, we've had a few videos where we melted down copper, some where we melted aluminum. Being in the furnace at that temperature either, it's... Try to pour them both into one muffin tin and see what... A lot. Rising on top. And it's just gonna keep crystallizing until it's solid all the way through. And then hopefully we can cool down the copper. I'm just gonna pour more copper on top of that. The tin, we'll just flip that back over. This was enough that the molten salt actually cooled down the steel. But I'm hoping that once this one cools down, we'll be... Our entire muffin tin pop out of the whole tray. Has warped a little bit. All right, I think our salt and our aluminum, there's... Well, finally got the different color of salt. So having the copper in it may have done something to it. That's not surprising. The copper melts, that's always fun. Still one piece of aluminum at the bottom, and then some slightly mixed up changes as it cools down. That's kind of interesting. Some other metal. So today we're gonna try melting down just some of the... I don't know that a new muffin tin would make it stick less, but I think it would. Great. Once this is down in the bottom of that cup, that looks... Tin. Comparing the aluminum mixed with salt, the salt comes off the copper more easily than the copper came off the muffin. Broke out. Copper's still attached. Very pour in some salt. If I get any different result of our salt and copper block, see if I can break off some, but I don't want to break through the surface of the salt. I want to let it cool down entirely while it's in the tin. So, all right, I've done aluminum and then salt. Sinks right through it. I guess it's probably about that time. This whole tray is loose. Just need to, here is our salt. Start by pouring. Well, I think I was too eager to get that out of the salt there, but it seems to have picked up some of the character. Let's see if I can stir it. That is, I think my aluminum pretty well attached there. I think we're starting to have
Mario Kart 8. There's a link down in the description so you can get your name on the list. If that's not what you want,
a brownish orange color. Like I said, I don't know for sure that 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, and it started cooling down fairly quickly after I took it out. It looks really cool. This copper pipe has a lot more exposed surface area and should go much faster. Not sure what's causing that. Still liquid salt. Hey guys, I am Nate. Welcome back to this Center of Science. Cup didn't really gets above 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. Although something turned our salt very, very brown. Might be the bottom of the tin. I can get this ingot out of the mold. Sometimes our ingots kind of like to bond to completely cooled, which it's still very hot. And then I tried, really took on, but liquid metal still going on top of that piece on the bottom. And then of course this one where I poured more of that. You can see, I think when I poured the molten salt onto the molten copper, the heat difference in that one, we'll give it a little bit more to cool down and then we'll try and pop it out of the... Which is a very orange brown metal, our salt from our copper being melted down. I really like that look. Still very warm, but I think they're cooled down enough that they're quite solid. So I'm gonna see if I can, that's just copper right there. I bet we can sand that down. And the salt there we go, our aluminum has now solidified, at least possible that that was just from being heated up in our steel cup, but we haven't had anywhere. There's just the exposed copper underneath it with not a lot of met, almost 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, and our furnace only barely salt, and today we're into this salt, at least on some. So here we have what I believe is now just completely cooled copper with some, our copper, it's poor, already cooled down. Cooled down is a relative term. There's one. Maybe even polish it up and bring that color back out. The copper into the ingot. Oh! Even though I tried mixing it, it looks like, for the most part, looks like we kind of had layering in how the salt cooled. A little bit of salt that spilled out as I was trying to start by.
Hi! Yay! Oh! One more time, yay! Oh! Let it go! Yay! Oh!